Here is Governor Ron DeSantis in an interview on Fox News.
Republican presidents have accepted the canard that the DOJ and FBI are, quote, independent. They are not independent agencies. They are part of the executive branch. They answer to the elected president of the United States.
That view that the DOJ and the FBI should not be independent from the presidency is actually gaining traction among conservatives, and not just the ones whose name end in Trump. The New York Times points out today Mr. Trump's promise to use the Justice Department to go after his enemies fits into a larger movement on the right to gut the FBI and abandon the norm that the department should operate independently from the president. The most powerful conservative think tanks are working on plans that would go far beyond reforming the FBI, even though its Senate-confirmed directors in the modern era have all been Republicans. They want to rip it up and start again. So President Biden, who has thus far maintained a strict division between himself and the Department of Justice, is accused of being a wannabe dictator by the Republican Party. And the GOP solution to this entirely phantom problem is to give a future president complete control over the Department of Justice, so long as that president is a Republican. Joining us now are Slate senior editor and host of the Amicus podcast, Dahlia Lithwick, and former Missouri Senator Claire McCaskill. Both are MSNBC legal analysts. Thank you both for joining me tonight. And Claire, let me just start first with you on the surreality and I guess hypocrisy of this moment. To see Republicans accusing Joe Biden of being a wannabe dictator and then embracing a kind of new form of governing that would effectively allow the next Republican president to become a wannabe dictator.
It's really weird. First of all, Harvard Law School is calling Ron DeSantis. They want their law degree back. It is beyond embarrassing that he is an educated man who is spouting this stuff. The same thing with some of these other people who are saying, let's blow up the rule of law in this country. They always want to talk about the founding fathers. You think the founding fathers would be good with this? That we would have some kind of king-like figure that could direct people to arrest people on a whim? The rule of law held under Donald Trump because there were good men and women who made sure it did. Even though he tried to blow up that line. And think about this for a minute. If Joe Biden is somehow manipulating the Justice Department, why in the world would he leave a Trump prosecutor in charge of his own son's investigation?
Yes, that's a good point.
This is so bizarre to me. I mean, he clearly is trying to stay so far away from this, just as they did in the Obama. I'll never forget in the Obama administration when I actually tried to talk to the president about what was going on in Ferguson. And he put up his hands and said, Claire, I will not talk about anything that has to do with DOJ. Will not talk about it. You're welcome to call DOJ and talk to them and make sure they know what you think you know, but I will not talk to you about it. That is the rule in this country. It's always been the rule. The only one who wants to blow that up is Donald Trump because he doesn't have either the facts or the law on his side.